Vasilios, for letting us including your work in this selection. I've always been fascinated by Vasilios' work because I know his film for so long, not so long, many years, because he's been my former colleague and friend. So I know his other films as well. So I'm always struck by the way that he put together image and sound and invite the audience to a completely different world of um, unexpected and memory and dream that he created. And it's I always see a vast signature on his work. So for this particular work, and probably you can address it in your other work as well, could you elaborate on your own progress and process, because you usually incorporate dream and memory in your work, and with your own particular technique of abstract using 16 millimeter and 8 millimeter film stock, and fast cutting, and the technique that is particular to yourself. So could you talk a little bit about your process? How do you get to this particular form of storytelling?
Yeah, I don't know if this helps other filmmakers, but especially in this particular project, I try to create a parenthetical structure. So the beginning and the end are the same, or better, like whatever happens in the beginning continues in the end. And so in the middle, I put like mental images of this woman that we see in the beginning and then we see in the end. So it's like a parenthetical structure. And the only issue is like how much time should pass from the first shot to the last one, because we don't want to forget. That's like the idea that I think it's kind of like our job as filmmakers to understand also the attention that we can have from the first shot to the last one. And so I cut the movie many times because I thought that people will forget from the first shot to the last one. So, and you know that you are a filmmaker, you are a total filmmaker, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the second thing is like, not a lot of filmmakers experiment with the frame rate, which is like, it's a tool that we have that we don't really use it. We kind of like stuck into this 24 frames. But really, if you are like filming, holding a Super 8 camera, running from a hill, you know, with 14 or 16 frames per sec, everything seems like really, you know, frantic and crazy instead of doing 24. So another thing is that the frame rate, I'm filming like 18, 16, 14, sometimes even certain cameras give me only the possibility to have like 12 or 24 frames per second. So changing the frame rate, it's something that we forget that it can be a tool for us. Of course, you know, I do that like into the extreme, you know, until the viewer has a headache of like all these like violent, like frantic images. But
you do it for a purpose. You do it for a purpose. What I got from your film was a stream of consciousness, and as you recall, you it seems like to me like your dream or your memory inform your work. Is that correct?
It is. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you think, Soudabeh, what is the color of our dreams? What is the speed? What is like the events that happen in our dreams? Of course, it's hard to translate that into film, but you know, like the surrealist said that you know, dreams is like there's no cause and effect, a relationship between the events that happen. And so I use the parenthetical structure just to give like something for the viewer to hold on to. But then everything else is just no cause and effect. We go from, you know, a field in Oregon to, a plane in the center of Athens and subway in New York. You know, we go like from one shot to the other, and it's exactly that. Like, and we can talk about, you know, dreams, but it can be mental images, you know, which might be the same thing as a concept, you know. And what is the color of that? What is the speed? What is like what do we actually see in our dreams and our mental images? So I try to do that, but a film helps me a little bit more because I feel our dreams or our mental images, the things that we are imagining, are not high definition. I don't think they are like a 6K image. They're like images that fade away. There is a lot of grain in it. That's how I see it, at least. Maybe it's wrong, but this is how I see our mental images and our dreams. So they're not very clear. And I'm experimenting.
Don't you think that would, sorry to interrupt, don't you think
No.
would change gradually over time, or they would stay consistent from beginning to end?
Oh, you're absolutely right. And this is something that I'm doing in my new project, where sometimes it's sometimes I'm using like this 8x8 film, and so we see a building and then boom, we don't see anything. It's only grain of film, and suddenly there is a face that walks into the street, and then nothing again. Almost like, you know, almost like somebody found like a message in a bottle or something, or, you know, somebody discovered images as an archaeologist. And I'm exploring what you said. I'm exploring it now because, you know, I'm seeing the value of the film showing and not showing images. So yeah, I'm doing it. I'm discovering it right now and debating if I have to cut those parts out or include them in the film as part of our consciousness or mental images. Yeah, I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do, but I'm very fascinated by this. And so is it going to be all the images clear from the beginning to the end? Or it's going to be like fading away, reappearing,
and altering something. Is it accurate about sound as well? Do you have the same process with the sound, mental sound or something like that?
Well, sometimes I feel guilty about the sound because I see my timeline in Premiere, you know, very complicated in the visual part, and then the sound is a little bit more kind of like smooth, or there's no much alteration. I cut here and there, but I kind of want to leave it like at ease. And I'm not sure if I'm like almost like I'm doing a contrast between sound and image. You know, the image is frantic and the sound is like very mellow. Well, what I do, I think that's something that maybe you can call it a technique or a way to enhance the storytelling of this experimental project. In parentheses, I start with this kind of like sound of the sea, which is also a little bit muffled and a little bit like almost. Sound designers don't like the sound of parentheses. They think it's disturbing, and I understand that. But it's the sound of the woman that when she's like actually looking at the sea. So keeping the sound consistent actually makes us feel that all the mental images are happening from her head, because the same head that sees like that affronts, that sees the sea. And so that's why I kept the whole thing together. But again, you know, like that enhances the idea of the structure that I created, but it's not always. Now I'm using rain. I'm using the rain from the first shot, and I want to keep it consistent. But sometimes there are some points inside the film from the dirtiness of the film, the grain, and it feels almost like rain. So it goes to another level, the playfulness between sound and image. Well, you know, I'm trying to support the image, make it stronger with the sound, and keep this idea of that beginning and end are the same.
Mhm.
And that's the idea. The woman stands on a cliff next to the sea, so I keep the sea sound all over, so everything comes from the same head. But you know, like this is a little bit um, theoretically talking about it, might not sound good or a good idea, but it worked for me visually watching it, and I saw like when I screen it that people get it, and I'm like, okay, that means something, you know, like if everybody gets it, something good happens here, you know. So yeah, I want to be more experimenting with sound, but I'm always afraid that because our ears are more sensitive than our eyes, so I'm a little bit concerned to push it too much. But sometimes the design, like I want to disturb a little bit with the sound, like it's coming from inside our head. But sound designers don't like it. They say it's too noisy. So you know.
Your films are usually so unconventional and sometimes so abstract. Are you concerned about viewers and the way that they interpret your films?
Oh yeah, a lot. Actually, I mean, you know that very well too. Meaning, like Soudabeh, you know that if something is too abstract or has doesn't have so much story or plot in it, you cannot hold it for too long. So I'm limited a little bit. The more abstract my film is, the less duration has, because I can't like I it's a selfish thing to you're a little bit selfish to keep like a 20 minute abstract film. You know, like I feel like the duration has to deal with how much abstract your film is. And so yeah, that's why if my film is like longer than 8 minutes, you go around that 8 to 10. You have to give some narrative thread to the viewer to hold on to. If not, if it's just purely like energy, you know, you gotta give them some space. And sometimes I feel, Soudabeh, honestly, that that parenthesis is almost a little bit too long, just a little bit, where you start really to be like, all right, I got this. What's gonna happen? Then it ends, and I did it on purpose
Mm.
because I felt really that at some point it will be like too much, and by the time it becomes too much, like I changed it and I put the end. But some people say Vas almost I lost attention.
Mhm.
So you know, it's that I did it on purpose. Just the time where the the audience might be like, I had enough. There I stop and I put the ending. But it was close sometimes
Mhm.
from the viewers.
How your background, different places that you've been inform your work, this particular and your other work, uh, space, locations inform your work.
Oh, oh. This is something that, you know, this idea of different geographies and how those different geographies can stand in the same timeline and be united. Like, I mean, the movie, Parenthesis, has like very different landscapes. Um, and basically, you know, those are all, I've been there in all those places. And I had an extra role only for California that I wasn't able to use all of it. Um, and, you know, like how can all those different geographies somehow feel one as one thing? I think that's like a very interesting practice in my filmmaking. I like it to do that a lot, like the different geographies and how you can make them look as one.
Mhm.
It's a little bit the coolish of idea of like artificial landscape, where you create like very different, like you film in different places and you make it look like it's one place. And I feel like that is something very only cinema can do, really, you know, in such a powerful way. but also I like it, you know, like it's also being from two different countries also, and now in the States, you have to do that mentally a lot of the time. I'm in Greece, I'm in Italy, I'm in the US, like merging things and trying to filter everything. So that it's beautiful that I found like some kind of like a shelter in filmmaking where I can do actually that and narrate a story and tell something, you know. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's the beauty of your work, that invite the audience to look at the nature of cinema, and visual that you present to them goes beyond a surface of the cinema, or surface just storytelling itself. I really appreciate that you led us to include your work in this program. It was an
Thank you, Soudabeh.
amazing work, and I'm so looking forward to seeing your next work and next films as you're making more and more. Please share with us if you make any
I
new
will.
work. Please share with us.
Absolutely, I will.